Yes, yes, you are. You are tuned in to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB, Mississippi's conservative 50,000-watt blowtorch. Strong, going out there. But if for some reason you can't go ahead and get the radio signal, we're always streaming on Rumble. We're always streaming on X. We're streaming on YouTube and at WYAB.com. If you can't get the radio signal, pick us up there. We appreciate that. I am on X. If you wouldn't mind giving me a follow, I'd appreciate it. It's at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser, all gas, no brakes. And today is Monday, the 17th of November, 2025. Yes, it is Monday. It feels like a Monday, too. It just feels like a Monday, too. I'm sitting here getting ready for the show. Great talking with Clay this morning, a little bit earlier than normal, but it worked out awesome. Really great stuff. But I was listening to the news as it getting ready to come on, and all I could think of was this one time at band camp. And we are starting to see so many teachers out there just doing stuff that they shouldn't do. The truth of it is this stuff has been going on for decades and decades and decades. Now you just got social media and it gets amplified. But this isn't something that is just new and should be thought of as some type of it is an epidemic. It is bad, but it's not new. Look, if you want to be part of the program today, the number is 601-879-0002. The text line is open, 601-879-5060. Mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. And you know what? This was so good on Friday. We're just rolling with it. Good sense makes one slow to anger, and it is his glory to overlook an offense. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Tongue out of control, just going off, and now there's a spat between President Trump and MGT, and let's play saying stupid things for 1,000, Alex. If you think MGT is going to end up winning this battle, I disagree. So we're going to definitely talk about that. Tucker Carlson and the assassination attempt on President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. How is it that Tucker Carlson can break a story like this, but the FBI can't, ABC can't, NBC, whatever, news media, all quiet on the down low? If you do not think that we're facing something bigger out there, there's not some type of stronger entity, whether it be the deep state, the one world, whatever. I don't want to get caught up in those word semantics. We can all agree that there's something bigger out there. And it's just brutal to me that Tucker Carlson breaks this. Good on Tucker. I'm giving Tucker full credit. It does kind of bother me that this gets dropped on a Friday and kind of gets lost over the weekend. So it's our job to go ahead and talk about it more. You never want to drop a big news story on a Friday. That's where news stories goes to die. This morning, President Trump is talking about maybe releasing the Epstein files now. If I was a congressman, I'd be kind of upset. Because we do have to represent our constituents, but we also all have to swim together. And if you're telling me to swim north and all of a sudden you're telling me to swim south, I'm going to do it. I'm a good soldier. I make it happen. But come on, man. In North Carolina, ICE have begun operation over there, and we're going to talk about that because people over there in North Carolina aren't too happy. But when you look at what's going on in the great state of North Carolina and Charlotte, believe it or not, the last time I was there 5 years ago, I'm sure, well, maybe it was actually more closer to 10, but I'm sure it's not like when I was there, but Charlotte was awesome, man. seriously entertained moving there, but I was like, "I could live here." Charlotte was great, and then we're gonna continue to talk about Chicago and New York and how they are setting the example of how not to run a big city, and I pray that our mayor, John Horn Andrew, Jackson's not big as Chicago, New York. No, but the same principles still apply, just not as many zeros and decimal places. Yep. But we've got so much to talk about, but the place that I really wanna start talking about is it's a not not a WLBT, but a WYAB exclusive. It seems like we talk about this more than any other news station in Mississippi. It's the culture rot. Is it's this and but this is a lot deeper. This is bondage. This is true slavery. And sadly and disproportionately, it impacts the Black community more than it impacts the white community as a statistic. I'm not sure if it's the actual raw numbers out there, and I can find the raw numbers on this, but this really hit me hard this weekend. As I was looking at the whole SNAP EBT deal. First of all, many people didn't actually know this, but you have to re-up your SNAP benefits, your EBT benefits every 6 months. And if I'm incorrect on that, somebody's surely gonna come here call me, but that's what has been told to me. I don't know, not on SNAP, not doing that stuff. So, I am not the person to talk about that, but what I am gonna talk about is that President Trump said everybody's gonna have to revalidate their SNAP. There's 2 ways to take this. The everybody's gonna re-up their or revalidate their SNAP in 6 months anyways, so this is president really not doing anything, he's just making a political point and moving on. I don't agree with that. I think President Trump is serious when he says everybody's gonna have to revalidate, and I bet you're gonna see a bunch of people get removed. A bunch of people getting their last SNAP checks in November, December timeframe. We've all seen the hockey stick or the chart that shows how SNAP and EBT benefits just skyrocketed in 2019. You can blame the Chinese virus, COVID. You can blame the Biden invasion of illegal aliens here. And real quick, they are illegal aliens. They always will be. It's not that they're evil people. I don't want that, but they're here illegally. And you have some of the biggest morons out there saying it's not a crime, it's a civil penalty. Go ahead and go into court and see how you fare. And the truth of the matter is you're gonna lose. The invasion was real. We all witnessed it. We're witnessing it now. I know on Friday I said we're in a cold civil war. We are. We have people out there saying silly and stupid things to inflame that. I'm here to be truthful with my community, and it's not the Black community, the white community, it's all of us who live here in Mississippi, right? All of us who live here in Mississippi. Whether you might not like white people, you might not like Black people, but guess what? They're your community and they're here. And it's just, it's always been better. It's always been better to go ahead and talk with your neighbors and try to get along than sit there and just throw shade at each other from behind each other's backs. That never works. That never works. Whether it's rightly or wrong, whether you wanna believe that this is a government setup or some private setup, SNAP and EBT benefits are designed to go to people who need it, who are impoverished. Andy, why are you picking on Black? I'm not picking on the Black community. I'm just saying this is where it goes, right? And when SNAP and EBT goes down, oh my goodness, absolute insanity and chaos occurs. And it's not, I'll tell you what, that's gotta be frightening for those of us who are completely against SNAP and EBT. That's great, and I'm there with you for the most part. 98% of the time I'm there. So does that make me a rhino if I'm only a 98 percenter? I'm sure there's some conservatives out there who let me know. But the truth of it is this: the Black population since the 1980s has become more and more dependent on the government and less dependent upon themselves. You cannot sit there and blame a 23-year-old person out there who has been raised on SNAP and EBT. It's their way of life. And look, this, I'm not sitting here coming with the angry malice heart, not being racist. I'm just spitting the facts. When you have been raised on something your entire life and you've watched your mother or your father or both or grandma or your auntie, uncle, whatever, go in to get these SNAP benefits, you're just like, this is what it is. This is how we always done it. There is no counter programming, for lack of better word, and we are being programmed, by the way. You might not think so, but if everybody really seriously for 1 second just goes and looks at their anxiety device, think about this. Kids who were born 20 years ago have a life addicted to looking to this thing. If you go back 40 years, Gen X, 80s, 90s, these kids didn't have cell phones. They didn't have the ability to get programmed. But we've all said that the brain is a computer and it operates like a computer. And some people will call the cell phone device a great invention. You have the knowledge of humanity in your hands. But it also programs you and doesn't allow you to think critically or reasonably. And I promise you, so many of us, uh, if we were to be truthful with ourselves, we look at these Gen X's and Gen Z, or not Gen X, but Gen Z and Gen A, and I am not here to pick on them. I'm actually here to bring them in, and we're going to really be focusing on that as we move forward. But I want you to hear this one EBT recipient and listen to her and tell me, is this the type of person who should be utilizing EBT? I have listened to this. I didn't hear a curse word, so I think we're going to be all right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go.
Guys, my SNAP benefits finally came in today in full. So we're going to go to the grocery store. We're going to get everything organic. We're going to get all the chips, all the Rice Krispies, all the fruit bars, luxury meats, the expensive soda Olipop. We're going to get one of each flavor. Okay. And that's it. I'm not getting anything for my kids. They can eat the luxury meats if they want to. I'm not getting anything for them. I have suffered this month and I'm going to get what I want. Mom snacks only. Guys.
How about that? Would you want that for a mama? Sadly, this is what SNAP produces. This woman is entitled. She wants her SNAP. She don't care about her kids. She's going to go get the organic meats, the luxury meats, the high-end stuff, and then the chips and the snacks and the stuff and the soda. Do you see the hypocrisy right there? Do you see the insanity that we're walking and working through? And some people are upset that Trump doesn't have this all fixed in a year. My goodness gracious. We got to take our first break right here on the Andrew Gosser Show. We will be right back.
Whatever you want at Juniker Jewelry Company, just divide the price by 36 and that's your monthly payment.
Shop now for Christmas and save.
Because right now, through the end of the month, get 3 years, 36 months, interest-free.
Juniker Jewelry Company, Mississippi's direct diamond importer. 1485 Highland Colony Parkway, just south of 463 in Madison, and junikerjewelry.com.
Your roof is constantly exposed to the elements, battling dirt, algae, and stains. But with Watkins Construction and Roofing Roof Wash Service, you can keep it looking like new. A proprietary rooficide treatment is EPA approved, safe, and guaranteed to prevent algae from coming back for at least 2 years. No harsh chemicals, no damage, no black streaks. Just a clean, beautiful roof lasts. Call Watkins Construction and Roofing at 601-966-8233 or visit nomoreroofstains.com today.
Business owners, tired of drowning in payroll, compliance, and back office headaches? ePolice has your back. ePolice can free you from the never-ending grind of employee administration, such as time and attendance, onboarding, background checks, even business insurance. While you focus on growing your business, ePolice handles the paperwork. Stop stressing and start succeeding. Partner with ePolice, locally based in Ridgeland. Visit ePolice.com and get back to business.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. So grateful and thankful to be here, feeling a whole lot better this time than a week ago. My goodness gracious. My goodness gracious. We were talking about the SNAP and EBT apocalypse. Let's talk about some good things that came from this. Number one, I remember 2 or 3 days before this all broke out in October, I went to a couple gas stations in and around Jackson, and the subways were completely shut down. They're board. They weren't boarded up, but I saw 4x8 pieces of plywood sitting there. And, you know, we didn't have the mass chaos and rioting like the Democrats were hoping for. We didn't have a lot of the drama that was predicted. Dogfish coming in with the message. Did you have Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, and MGT as anti-Trump on your bingo card in 2025? I did not. Well, I can't say that I did either. What I can say is that I'm not a Trump sycophant. I support President Trump, and I get behind him. And where I do disagree with him, you can best believe I'm rolling full Proverbs 15:1. It's almost I guess it's ungodly to sit there and try to instigate somebody. You know, you're not supposed to try to provoke anger with your neighbors. You're not supposed to try to provoke anger with the people you oppose. You're not supposed to provoke anger in your spouse. You're not supposed to provoke anger in your children. Yet, how many of us, when we were raising our kids, used to love to get our kids fired up? I get my 2 boys all fired up, and it was fun in the moment. But looking back on it now, I'm not sure if I would have played those cards quite the same way. And if you look at what's happening on CNN, if you look what's happening on MSNBC, all they're trying to do is instill anger and hate and get everybody upset over this EBT apocalypse. So that's one of the good things. We didn't have all the violence. And if we're being truthful, we should be thankful to TikTok and some of these social media platforms that document this buffoonery for historical purposes. Now, it won't be there forever. Andrew, that's on the internet. The web is forever. Is MySpace forever? Can you go back and check out your MySpace stuff? I don't know. I don't have MySpace. I think I had it, but I never really used it. But if we do not sit there and track this foolishness, this insanity, just like this woman we played to, by the way, yes, unknown texter asked me to share that video of that woman and then asked what ethnicity that woman was. Well, she was white. And if you follow me on X, you can go watch that video for yourself and share it with others. But let me tell you, this woman, what she's thinking and doing is not something that is just an isolated incident. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of SNAP beneficiaries who are thinking just like this lady. And it isn't good. And yes, she does need to lose her SNAP benefits. Maybe she shouldn't be parenting those kids. Maybe she shouldn't be. For me personally, I don't. And again, maybe this is just the Gen Xer in me, and maybe this is the boomer, if you're a boomer, or maybe it's just your upbringing. But it was never a good idea to be on SNAP or EBT. It was never a good idea. You felt embarrassed from it. It's almost like, remember how people used to feel embarrassed for going into foreclosure or losing their house or declaring bankruptcy, and now people just don't care anymore? Now it's just a simple paperwork, stamp it, off you go. For me personally, there will always be a need for food assistance, and that's where church and local organizations should take charge and carry out the plan of the day, and the government should not. I mean, fellas, how long have we known that our law enforcement agencies don't always do the right thing? They're supposed to, but they don't. And for the longest time, so many of Americans, white Americans, black Americans, Indians, Asians, it didn't matter. We just blindly trusted. We just blindly went forward trusting the FBI, the CIA, police department, the news organizations, all these pillars that have been put into place. We've just blindly trusted them, and we're finding out that they're really not that good. Oh, Andy, you're talking about the FBI and the CIA delivering all that cocaine back in the 80s and 90s. That didn't happen. Really? Is it fair to say that the two sheriffs who got indicted by the that same FBI and 15 other law enforcement officials weren't running drugs through the state of Mississippi to get it to Memphis, to where they could destroy more black families and black lives up in Memphis? And again, you can go look up the ethnicity of them, of all those people who were charged. You can go do that. I don't need to. And then you have the church coming out and praying for people who were destroying people's lives. Andy, that's not forgiveness. No, I understand forgiveness. I have a lot of forgiveness. I could do better. But just because I forgive you of doing something doesn't mean that you still don't have to pay the consequences. And I was having a discussion with a couple of my political friends, and we've all come to the conclusion that social media, unless you're a conservative, you have no consequences. Think about being a conservative, a vocal conservative on Facebook and X from 2018 to 2022. You were censored. You were completely put away. Your voice didn't matter. Your thought didn't matter. And you have a whole generation of kids who think that's okay. You've got a whole generation of kids. And again, Zoomers, alphas, I am not picking on you. This is just the cards you've been dealt. This is just what you've been dealt. They're looking at this saying, we're not getting any of the good deals that came down to X and millennials. Would it be fair to say that Generation X and the millennials took all the goodies and said, forget about everybody else, we're getting ours? There are so many open and outstanding questions, this SNAP EBT stuff, and it's truly heartbreaking to watch arguably the greatest nation ever on this earth go down like it's going. I mean, this is Rome 2025. You still can't have pleasant conversations with your friends and neighbors about, hey, you thinking about maybe firing up that garden that we used to have when we were kids? Remember grandma and grandpa would make us go out there and weed for an hour every day after school before we could go play. We had to do it first because they wanted to make sure that we had the sun. And that one time we said, we'll do it a little later. It's too hot. And they said, okay. And then we ended up not doing it. And what happened? Oh, you were right out there at 3:30, 4 o'clock. And I know that the Illinois sun is not the same as the Mississippi sun, but it still stinks in the summertime in Illinois. And you just did not want to be part of that. We've got whole segments of our society, not black segments or white segments or Asian segments or Indian segments, but segments of our society, primarily those who are impoverished, who have become accustomed to just having the government do everything for them. I mean, they got the SNAP EBT for food. They got the government assistance for housing. They've got the Medicare, Obamacare for healthcare. What do they have to produce? What do they have to do? And before you get all upset and calling them lazy and disrespectful, and if you're brought up like that, how do you know any better? And the truth is on the inside, there's somewhere in their heart and in their brain that they know that, hey, maybe it's not supposed to work like this. But again, this is all they know. And I'm never going to sit there and slap someone up for saying, oh, you're on EBT. But I'm like, what are you doing to get off of it? Get off of it, Andy. Why? That's free money. As they are finding out in New York and as they are going to find out in Chicago, there is no such thing as free money. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Someone's paying for it. You're just okay because it's not you, the one who's fitting the bill. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Hey, what's up?
Yo, well, do you ever listen to 103.5 on Sundays?
Uh-huh.
Do you ever listen to 103.5 on Sunday?
I'm in church, brother.
Oh, but they on the radio from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m.
4 to 6.
Do you ever
103.5?
listen to 103.5 WOAD?
I wrote it down.
Who you have on there is the state senators,
Mm-hmm.
the Democratic state senators, and I think Leroy Walker. They're black guys that are state senators of Mississippi, right?
Yes, sir.
You ever heard of them?
No, I haven't. I'm coming back from commercial. Can I bring you on the air and we can talk about it?
No. What I wanted to say was this.
Mm-hmm.
they were talking about what about the jobs and the income criteria for SNAP in Mississippi. Like in some of these areas, these people ain't got no other choice but to be on SNAP. Generation after generation, so they don't bring jobs.
Yep.
Like these data centers that they brought to this metro area, why didn't they bring the data center to the Delta where people need jobs so they can get off SNAP?
Brother,
Talk about this, sir.
I will talk about that. But I got to go back to the show.
Yeah, talk about that on air. They need to be addressed. They need to get more jobs in these impoverished areas that pay higher income. So people can get off SNAP.
Hey, that's a great call. Great call. Man, I wish that guy would have came back. And everybody who's listening on the online, those are the types of calls that are so frequently out there that are, it's just the whole mentality is changing. There's good people who are talking about that, and everybody sees it. We just have to be patient, and again, that gentle heart. Not that I'm going to agree with them on everything, but it just makes taking ground so much easier, not just politically, but for the kingdom. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. And during the break, I had one of the most awesome phone calls and one of just a listener who probably doesn't agree with me on everything, but here's what I'm saying and has enough confidence to go out and talk about something. And so, as promised, my man, he brought up how senators get on the radio on a Sunday afternoon, Black Democrat senators, and they complain about jobs and how they can't bring jobs into areas that need jobs. And the example that this gentleman gave was these data centers. Instead of putting them in places like Madison, how come they didn't put them in places in the Delta where they need those jobs? And I think it is very fair comment to say, hey, these jobs, where are they going? Who can do that? But at the same time, we have to be truthful about this, right? The education to have a data center job. And look, I'm not talking about a data center job where you're the janitor. Nothing wrong with being a janitor, but the janitor is not going to be making as much as the technician who's making sure the data center is working. And we want to make sure that we have people who are qualified, who understand what it means to be in there working in that data center. And can the Delta produce people who do that? Yes. Is it currently producing people who have IT degrees? No. So we're at the question, my man, of if you build it, will they come to the Delta? I think in the data center case, you might have a point. You would still have to have some sort of town around the area. But I think there's a point to be made there. The other point I would say, sir, and this is important, and I mean this, those who know how to farm are rich more than they understand here just on Earth. We need to go ahead and empower these farmers to stay in farming to make it profitable so that they can stay in farmer. And this gentleman, man, I wish he would have came on the air. I so wish he would have came on the air because I'm sure he could articulate his positions on some of this stuff more than I could. But there's fact there that says that, look, how are we going ahead and bringing up people out of poverty? And we can talk about the Delta and the Delta and the Delta, but why can't we go ahead and do that with Jackson too? And so for every poll that we want to talk about improving the Delta, how do we also improve Jackson? I still maintain that Jackson could be, I'm not saying it will be, but it could be an economic juggernaut for the state of Mississippi. It absolutely could be. There's a population that needs jobs there. I guess what it comes down to, my man, is do people really want to do those jobs? It's like it's interesting because I was just talking to a bunch of kids who want to start podcasts and being in radio and doing that stuff, and we had a great talk. But I told them, what happens after 4 months of you doing a radio show and all of a sudden you don't want to come in because you're tired that day? You know, the leadership at WYAB depends on me heavily. They count on me being here. They count on Clay being here and Kim being here. And that's not to say that accidents don't happen, and that is not. But you just don't go up and quit. And I feel as though there are some in the business community who don't want to invest in Jackson because they don't feel that the job market and the worker environment in Jackson fits their business. And I'm not here to say that is right or wrong. Look, we're business. We're laying down millions and millions of dollars. I'm not going to make a business decision based off the feels. I need people who are going to be able to run a locomotive for the railroad. And you know what? Jackson might have a pool of people where they can go and pull people to drive locomotives. And we've got a rail yard in Jackson. It just goes to show, there's that opportunity there. But a data center, it requires such a unique skill set. And the truth of the matter is, in another 4 or 5 years, that skill set's going to be gone anyways because computing's totally going to change. I was on a phone call this weekend trying to get something straightened out with my oven, and I was told that AI was listening to our conversation to help train it to become a better customer service agent. That beautiful lady that I was talking to on the other end over at my stove and ovens company, English was clearly not her first language, and you know what? AI is using her to train itself so that it can become the customer service rep, where it will be polite, where it will go ahead and act the way that the corporation wants it to act. Man, I hear you, and I will try to tune in to listen to a little bit of that. I think the more that people are talking to each other and not putting up these silos and throwing off shade and drama. I mean, how do you bring in meaningful jobs to the Delta. Everybody's education. Okay, we're doing a pretty good job in education, not so much in the Delta. How do we fix that? Do you put in just more money? No, more money. The one thing that I can genuinely say after learning all of this is that just throwing money at a problem is not going to solve it. You could throw $39 trillion at Congress right now, and those morons would not pay off the debt. They would just find ways to spend it. That's just how it is. And how are we going to go ahead and have not even generational change, my man? I know you're still listening. How do we have biblical change to where we can take up years and years of that bad education, that bad teaching that happened out there in the Delta that didn't produce businessmen and businesswomen? It didn't produce doctors and lawyers. Andy, we just didn't have it. There's something that's going on there. And I do know what it is. I just don't know how to coach it and say it the right way. And if I can't say it the right way, I'm not going to say it at all. But I will say that we have to go on and realize that putting businesses in places where there's already good business environment, well, that's good business. That's what's best for business. But at what point do you make decisions that are not best for business? Is that why you have the government go in there? And if you're saying that, yes, that's why we have the government go in there, then you have to also look at the government's track record, which is absolutely terrible. The government has not done a good job of managing our money. They just haven't. We're 38 trillion in debt. We're hurting. And don't make a misunderstanding. I am not putting the government first in all this. Our people need to come first, but we just have to do it in a way that just doesn't throw money at the problem. I'd love to sit down and talk with that fellow, man, who called in. If you want to call back or hit me on the text line, 601-879-5060, dude, I'd love to go to lunch with you. I really would, and I'm being sincere. Man, that would be good. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show. I'm a little long. We will be right back. Hello?
Hey, let me tell you one thing about those data centers. You skipping the point. You got to build the data center first, right?
Yep.
That's what I'm talking about. Those jobs.
Gotcha.
Building the data center. Like, it's a lot go with it. It's a lot of jobs out there that people are working in this local community do not have, technology degrees. You don't have to have a technology degree to build a data center.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's what I'm talking about.
Let me ask you this, because you brought up a great point, and I'm not trying to cut you off. You brought up a great point. So I know for a fact, I live in Terry, Mississippi. There are a lot of great construction and engineering firms that are predominantly Black or Black owned, but people aren't even using those companies. They're going to the illegal aliens for labor. They're going to other companies.
That's because I investigated it.
Mm-hmm.
That's because they are not advertising those jobs to the general metro area public. you have to dig and research and word of mouth. Hopefully somebody will tell you, hey, you know they hiring out here for this data center to pick up trash, and they paying like $18 an hour.
My goodness, that's a pretty good
You
rate.
see what I'm saying? Like jobs, it's plenty of jobs at those data centers right now, but they're not advertising them to the general public. Don't nobody hardly know about it. You have to really do your investigation, and you have to really ask questions. You may need to ride out there and talk to somebody. And I'm telling you who told me about it on the radio was Chip Matthews. He was like, you can make a lot of money out there selling water. Make a lot of money out there selling hot dogs to the workers.
Yep. Hey,
he is exactly right.
Dude,
but people don't really know that. Let me drive out to Madison, to Canton, to the Dalton,
to
the thing they building out there and see what's going on. See is anybody hiring just to pick up trash or something?
Yep.
Or to carry something up. Just be a general worker,
a laborer or contractor,
a general laborer or something.
Yep. Well,
right, and then you never know where you can be a general laborer. Then they may hire you on to do something else. Maybe a maintenance man or something.
Yep.
So that facility will need maintenance men once it's built up. You don't have to be a ITT tech.
No, I hear what you're saying, and that just goes to show you. And look, this is nothing bad. There's nothing bad on my part. It's just my life experiences, right? I would have never thought about that at this point in my life. When I was 15, I was doing searching out that kind of stuff. Dude, I'm not going to use your name on the air, but can I get your name? Just your first name?
My name's William.
William, my name's Andrew. And I hope you continue to listen. And you can text me anytime. If you ever want to go to lunch, let me know, man. It's on me. I'd love to go. I got to get back to the radio, though. I apologize.
All right. Have a good day.
You too. Be blessed.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Yeah, that was good stuff right here on the radio. You heard me talking to a gentleman. He called back, and because I kind of missed his main thrust. And again, it's because we have different cultural experiences and upbringings. It's not necessarily a bad thing. He's like, I'm not asking people to be the IT techs. I want people to help build it, to go pick up trash. There's other opportunities there. And he's right. And I hope that gentleman continues to call in and continues to push the agenda or the message that there is more than one way to go ahead and empower people to get certain jobs. Look, I always like getting local news stories, and I follow local politicians and newsmakers and people who I feel bring in substantive quality to the debate, whether it be the political sphere, the news sphere, whatever. And this is coming from Russ Latino. I think he did this over the weekend, and I saw that, and I'm like, yep, that's going to be at the end of the hour segment. Baby elephants are born weighing approximately 250 pounds. Elephants. I did not know that they were that heavy when they were born. That makes them the world's biggest babies, right next to the people who complain about others celebrating Christmas too early. Is it too early to start putting up Christmas decorations? I heard Christmas carols the other day. Is it too early? We haven't had Thanksgiving yet. We were always the day after Thanksgiving kind of person to really get into this season. Although every season should be about celebrating Christmas. If you get back to the true biblical meaning of what Christmas actually is, I don't think it's necessarily ever too soon. But I'll tell you this: there are more and more people out there, dare we call them Karens and Kens, who are out there just go out there to make drama and make everybody's life miserable because they're so miserable. And this show is not catering to that. And if that is you, I don't want to make you more miserable. You might want to go somewhere else. But we are here to try to have a positive impact on things and make it go further down the road, a better way to go down the road. We'll be right back.
The number one challenge here that we see and is, of course, the First Amendment in the United States is a fairly robust protection of rights, and that is a protection of rights both for platforms, which I actually think is very important that platforms have those rights to be able to regulate what kind of content they want on their sites. But it also means that it is a little bit tricky to really address some of the real challenges of where does bad information come from and sort of the influence peddlers who have made a real market economy around it. The number
Yes, yes, you are. You are turned in to the Andrew Gosser Show. And we are on 103.9 WYAB, Mississippi's conservative 50,000 watt blowtorch, sound of freedom. It is Monday, the 17th of November, 2025. We are streaming on Rumble. We are streaming on X. We are streaming at YouTube and at WYAB.com. So if for some reason you can't hear the 50,000 watts of truth, you can always tune in online, and we appreciate that. You can follow me on X. I would appreciate it. At Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser, all gas, no brakes. And the number, if you want to call in today, I have to be sincere about this and say people love calling in during the breaks. I know I've got some people talking. You want to come on the air? No. I get it. But if you want to come on the air, 601-879-0002. The text line always open, 601-879-5060. The job here at the Andrew Gosser Show is to what? Equip the saints. Y'all are the saints. Look, and I'm just telling you, with that gentleman who called in twice during the breaks to update it, good sense makes one slow to anger, and it is his glory to overlook an offense. Brother, that is where we all need to go. And if we just sit here and start discounting people because of their belief system or their skin color or the fact that their political leaning might not be the same as yours, we are in a world of trouble, because we're just going to keep on fighting back and forth with each other and do all this. Last thing I want to say before we get into MTG or MGT and the celebrated demise of MAGA, which isn't happening, but we'll get to that in a minute. CBS. I don't understand how it can just so casually say that teachers are in trouble for some bad decisions they made. These are child molesters, sexual predators in our classrooms. And it truly is an epidemic or a pandemic in the United States. And what are we going to do about it? I don't know. But that leads nicely into MGT or MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congresswoman. I think it's Georgia 18. Maybe not. But MGT has given every conservative out there, whether you are a MAGA type or an establishment type, she has given an outstanding example, a great example of how not to act and what not to say and how not to do it. Yep. She has completely destroyed her political career, much like another friend of mine. And I do call him a friend. We don't agree on much anymore, but Joe Walsh is a friend. You cannot sit there and talk about all of a sudden, you know what this is like? This is, man, I hate to say it like this. Wow. Okay. So what makes a person just completely flip and change? We've actually come out because of Tucker Carlson and his reporting. Remember how they said that Thomas Crooks was a MAGA supporter? Well, we know now that the FBI and the CIA wasn't lying about that, thanks to Tucker. But they also didn't tell you the full truth about it. They said, oh, he was a MAGA supporter. Never mind that he went through this incredible transformation and became one of the biggest never Trumpers, anti-Trumper people out there. I mean, how much he's bigger than anybody politically. He tried to kill the president, for crying out loud. And MGT has had the same type of switch right in front of us for all of us to witness. And she will come back and she will say, I supported the president. I voted all the time the president needed me. Yes. And the president is not all about just people having yes men around him. If people who know him, he's not about the yes man, but if you're going to disagree with them, you better be able to competently and articulately form your argument and be able to produce that argument under high amounts of stress. Ridiculous amounts of stress. And MGT isn't doing it. Now, there are a lot of conservatives out there, and I know because they're texting me, Andy, why are you going after MGT? I'm not going after the fact that she disagreed with President Trump. It's how she handled it. It's so plain for me to see as a political person to see how this has been a screw up. And this is, I'm not necessarily guilty of this because I never went after a person and their ideas this way. But for me personally, if I'm going to call you out and say that you're screwing up, I'm going to do so in a way that, number one, you're going to know that we have to have the conversation. It's not that you're going to be able to say some sophistry and try to divert the conversation. It's going to happen. But I'm not going to do so in a way that, at least in the beginning, that publicly mocks you, comes after you, makes you look foolish. Nah. But you have a lot of people in MAGA, and let's make sure what MAGA is. MAGA is not necessarily conservative, ladies and gentlemen. It's populism. Conservatism and liberalism is a horizontal issue. That's why you got one side the right, one side the left. That's how that works. So that's how they keep us on that spectrum. But the populism spectrum goes up and down. Are we doing good? Are we not doing good? Are the policies that the conservatives are putting into place having us do good, or they're not? And that's where Trump's losing it. I'm not saying that I'm here to roast President Trump. I'm just telling you what I see in front of me from people who I have relationships with. And I'm telling you, they're not happy. They're not happy over the Epstein stuff. They're not happy over how immigration is slowing down. They're not happy over how necessarily the shutdown was covered. But this just came out this morning, and I think it is pertinent to MTG and what there's a select group of Republicans I call not necessarily, well, they are Republicans, but they're more deep state, keeping the government open and running than they are necessarily conservative. President Trump used his Truth Social this morning to come out and said now he wants the Epstein files released. As I said on Friday night aboard Air Force One to the fake news media. So Trump going in on the fake news, glad to see it. House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. Yes. Yes, you have nothing to hide. Let it out there. And it's time to move on from this Democrat hoax perpetuated by the radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great successes of the Republican Party, including our recent victory on the Democrat shutdown. You can claim that. And President Trump is right. And this is rule 4 of politics. Declare victories early and often. I can't believe how this just keeps on coming back up in my life, these rules. But we can have all these victories, and there'll be one group of people who are just like, it's all or nothing for me. There's all or nothing Democrats. There's all or nothing Republicans. I am not that way. Perhaps that's why I wasn't as popular as I could have been. When we had the Board of Supervisors complaining that they needed to keep their somewhere between $15,000 a year and $30,000 a year health care plans, the Platinum health care plan, there were 23 yeses and 1 no. You want to know who the one no is? Oh, you're talking to him. Boy, Michelle Aving ripped me a new one outside. It was great because I ended up being in the right. But at the same time, I was incorrect. Well, I wasn't incorrect. There's just no way I was going to be able to change all those people's mind. And of course, they did get to keep the platinum package. Oh, it was great. A 250-year deductible for everything else paid. $250 deductible for primary care, emergency care, and pharmaceuticals. After those $250 deductibles were met, everything was paid for. And that was per person, by the way. So wife was $250, you were $250, kids were $250. But still, that's nothing compared to what we're paying today. Let's continue. The Department of Justice has already turned over tens of thousands of pages to the public on Epstein and are looking for various Democrat operatives, Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Larry Summers, etc., to the relationship to Epstein. Well, I just don't want to hear about the Democrats. I want to hear about everybody. And it needs to be flushed out there. Much like we need to hear everything that's happening with the Thomas Crooks investigation. There is one reason I can look the other way about the Thomas Crooks situation. And that's if they are so far deep into exposing all these networks out there who trained him, if they're still keeping this on the down low because they want to keep that cooled off, well, I get it. Well, let's take this phone call. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Hey, Andrew.
Hey, how's it going, my man?
Eric, how are you, buddy?
Eric, I'm hanging in there, my man.
Yeah, man. We missed you last week. I just want to add a few things to what you were saying today. I kind of disagree with you on a few things here.
Let's do it.
And not necessarily disagree with you. I disagree with Donald Trump on a few things. I'm MAGA. I voted for Donald Trump all 3 times.
Yep.
I love the message, but he also has to be held accountable for some of the things he's doing in this term that he ran on that he's not necessarily living up to. He ran on releasing these Epstein files. That was part of his campaign.
It was.
And the reason people liked it was because as just Joe, we thought we were getting someone in here that was not part of the establishment that was going to finally, bring to light what was going on. And then once he gets in and it comes to these Epstein files, he seemed to have done a 180 on us. His FBI director said there wasn't even a list. His attorney general said there wasn't a list after she said it was on her desk and she was going through it. Now, from someone on the outside looking in, that's a 180. All right, well, now what is he hiding? And now we're doing it again. We're going to pivot again. And all right, now I want you to release them. It sounds just like another politician to us now. There's a real thing when it comes to Trump fatigue. I love the message, but man, we get tired of hearing him brag on himself constantly, especially at the most inappropriate times.
Yeah.
When you go to honored vets, stop talking about Donald Trump and your numbers. We get it. You're in there. We voted for you. We understand this. The egomaniac billionaire is starting to get old to us. We thought it was cute to begin with. Oh, listen to him, man. He says craziest things. But now, and if you listen to his interview with Laura Ingraham, he said that when she kind of pushed back against him a little bit. And she said, well, something about the MAGA supporters. He said, I am MAGA supporter. I invented MAGA. I know what's right from MAGA. No, you're not. You are the representation of MAGA for us. But this mindset's been out here a while. MAGA is not one person.
It's an idea.
Yeah, it's an idea. It's a common, I think it's just common people trying to push back against big government. And then I could go on and on about things. All right, fine. His immigration, yes, you closed the border and you're going and grabbing up these illegals. But fella, it's hard to be even on the right or center right to not see he's going after these deep blue cities.
Yep.
I mean, he's not in Jackson. Nope. He's not in other towns. He's in towns of deep blue states. I mean, it's obvious. The people he's went after to prosecute. He said he wasn't going to go after, lawfare. He's done it many times. I mean, we couldn't sit here all day and name all of it.
Yeah.
Now, guilty's guilty. I'm not saying that. But the perception of your constituency is we're seeing a side of you that we have defended against, that you're showing is part of who you are.
Well, let me run a few. I was going to say.
Let me get this one last thing, and then I'll let you go.
Yep.
Green spoke out against him, and then he just crushed her. Well, you're telling me we got a guy that we can't even speak out against? I mean, that's a dictator. I mean, and that's the one thing he has sworn that he's not. Anyway, go ahead.
Let's talk about this, because Eric, you brought up some good points. First of all, if I was in Congress, which I'm not, and I'm not planning to go, so don't. But,
come on now.
But the thing is if I am going to do the party thing, and party leadership says, look, I know we campaigned on getting the Epstein files out, but this isn't it. I need you to vote no. And there are a lot of people who sit there and say, I'm voting no. And then I'm taking all this trash and condemnation and hatred from my constituencies, because I said I would vote to open it up. But I went with you because I understood the situation. I voted no. And then 2 days later, you tell me to vote yes. I'm going to be upset. Because you're
making them look like idiots.
You are making me carry your water for you. And
you're looking like a lackey.
Yes. And these congressmen are going to be out there. I mean, I'm just going to say a couple names. If I was Mike Easel or Mr. Kelly or Mr. Guest, and I was voting a certain way, and all of a sudden it's a complete flip, I'm ticked. Those men.
I got you one better. What about if you were J.D. Vance?
Yeah.
And you're looking forward to possibly a presidential run.
Yeah.
And you are his side, you're his guy, and you say yes to everything, and then he pivots like that. Now you've got to pivot. Man, he's hurting J.D. Vance so bad when it comes to, public opinion. You've got diehards. You got people that are not going to ever vote for a Republican, period.
Mm.
And you've got people that's going to vote for him no matter what. But all of us that are kind of in the middle, free thinkers.
Yep.
I mean, you look at this stuff and you wonder, like, also this deal with Venezuela.
Yep.
I agree with the war on drugs, but you're shooting these boats out of the water. You are killing human beings, and
yeah, but they're transporting
evil human beings at that. But what if this was another country doing that? What if this was Spain killing people off their coast? Or
I'll give you the answer to that. What President Trump would say is I can go to talk to the King of Spain and say, quit doing this stuff or you're going to get blown up, and they'd quit doing it. Eric, if you want to hang on through the break, you can, but brother, I am up against a break. I got to take it.
Do you break? Well, listen, I'll call back if I need to.
Yep. All right, brother. Thank you. Appreciate it. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Yeah, you are back at the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. Look, we're going to have to crank out some breaks in the second part of this half hour. Went long with Brother Eric, but when we get calls like that, when we get people dropping knowledge, I'm not just going to cut to break. I'll try to get their points in there. You talked about lawfare, Brother Eric. And again, we're not necessarily against going after people who have committed crimes. But for me personally, I'm just let the lawyers do their jobs. I'm just being truthful with you. As a conservative, I get nervous when politicians start going out there saying that we're going to go ahead and start prosecuting people. Now, politicians can come out and say this person should be prosecuted. This person should be prosecuted, and this is why. But the lawfare component of it, there's so many of us who are conservatives who have been victims of this or lived in fear of it. We don't necessarily want to necessarily play that game. That doesn't mean that we don't want to see these people go to jail and be held to account, to have to face the scales of justice for what they did. And again, part of this is on our hearts too. We know this is how President Trump is. This is how he's going to attack the situation. He's going to have a lot of success. It's going to cause us some consternation every once in a while. I'm okay with it. President Trump's my guy. I'm backing him to the hilt. I'd vote for him right now if I had to. He would be my vote. Absolutely. The fact that the mainstream media hates his guts. I mean, I just got this text here. We need Christian crusades again. The Fox News network should be called the M&M network. The Muslims and Marxists. We are missing the forest through the trees. Yes. MAGA sees the forest through the trees. We understand what's happening here. And when we don't feel like we're being heard, when our elected politicians aren't responding to us, then we get upset. But what I would say, it's a lot easier to go ahead and go complain to your state rep than it is the president of the United States or a congressman. Don't get me wrong. I am not telling you that the congressmen don't want to hear from you. They do. Most of the time. If you're one of those chronic people who just show up and make everybody's life miserable, they might not want to hear from you. But I genuinely know when I was running around DC, I could call congressmen and it wasn't that they picked up after the first ringer right away, but they always got back to me because of how I myself, and they knew that I was bringing a point of view to the table, much like MAGA is bringing a point of view to the table that maybe perhaps a lot of elected leaders or politicians don't necessarily want to talk about. It's just how it is. So I get the public lawfare thing. This is the thing about Epstein. President Trump talked about Epstein over and over again. And he said, we have to get them. But there's almost like there's this maneuvering, political maneuvering where it says, I actually didn't say this. I intended it. I implied it. But I never actually said those words just like that. And that just doesn't fly with MAGA. It doesn't even fly with those in the middle of the road. Those of us who are hyper partisan, whether it be on the right or the left, we can sit there and say, yep, he's our guy. I know he's got to go through this. I can eat this. And it's just the way that politics in America sadly works. Getting back to President Trump, his truth, and you know what? I think what I'm going to do is just take a screenshot of this during the next break and post it on my X account so people can read that. I want them to be able to go ahead and see what the president said. I never want to put words in the president's mouth. I will disagree with him, but if you think I'm going to sit here and go off like Marjorie Taylor Greene did, you've got to be kidding yourself. I want the Epstein files released. Now that the president has said that, he's given direct order to the House. or a request to the House. Order would be a bad choice of words, but he's put out this edict that he wants it done. Do it. There are like 3 or 4 brand new Democrats within the last 4 months inside the House that's saying they want to see the Epstein files released. Put them up there. Don't go after the entire Democrat caucus because that's a lost cause, but go after those people. Go after those people and make it happen. Get the votes and put it out there. Look, if there was any real credible evidence against President Trump and the Epstein files where they had him dead to rights, this would have come out so long ago. It really would have. But it didn't. So we got everybody fighting against each other. Meanwhile, and Rick, who's an awesome listener to this program, brings this up all the time. You know, what are they distracting us from? Rick, I just think they needed to get us up to speed to where stuff's going by so fast. We're all just like, the heck with it. We're not going to be paying attention to this. We're just going to continue on going down the road we traveled. We're not going to go. And I genuinely believe that's what the whole thing was. And I mean, they put so much past us, whether it be the assassination and martyrdom of Charlie Kirk, the bombing in Iran, you know, how he made it really clear that we weren't going to put troops on the ground, but we were going to go get those bumpers. The whole Gaza peace deal thing, whether you talk about the tariffs, whether you talk about the drugs, the fentanyl, you know, President Trump has got a game plan and he's just throwing all these things at us. And then it comes up to us, people in the voting electorate, who are supposed to try to make heads and tails of all this. Look, you know, this is my job where I consume a lot of news. And there's stories so big and I'm just like, just don't have time for this today. Like the Tucker Carlson story. We're going to talk a lot more about the Tucker Carlson story when we get back. I'm going to take this break a little bit early. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. We've got to talk about Tucker Carlson and Thomas Crooks and what implications does this have, not just to the FBI, the CIA, our national government, but I'm more concerned about local law enforcement. I'm more concerned about how America perceives law and order in general, the courts. I mean, there are people who have taken Tucker's 35, I think it's roughly 35-minute expose on Thomas Crooks, and now it is just everywhere. Mainstream media, mainstream podcasters, all talking about it. And it's brutal because now once that seed of doubt is placed into somebody's head, it's there forever. Even if they work through it and you're fine and get by it and everything, you have opened up a pathway in your brain of seeing something that you never would have thought you would have even had to consider. And that gets down to the brutality of all of this. The switch. I know we were talking about this in the last segment, or the segment before we got the phone call with Brother Eric, about the switch in Thomas Crooks' mind. What made him be pro-MAGA, go away for a year and a half, and then be anti-MAGA? Do you understand now why they hid all of his social media posts? Because now it didn't fit the narrative of the FBI's director in front of Congress. I mean, you want to talk about perjury, lying before Congress. Well, there it is right there. Well, I did tell you the truth. I just didn't tell you. No, you were lying. You're behind off. And the sad point is that until some of these judges go to jail and until some of these people inside the FBI and CIA who did this stuff go to jail, you know, those two sheriffs up north, they'll get their day in court. They actually might never go to jail because they're going to have to go in front of a jury of their peers. And again, the standard isn't being put forward by, I mean, remember jurors, you had to put your hand on the Bible back in the day and say you were going to do the right thing. We don't do that anymore. We don't make an oath to God. Even in courts of law anymore, we never say, so help me God. Do you promise to tell the whole truth or the entire truth and nothing but the truth? So, and then they don't even say, so help you God. Nope. I do. You know, we are so screwed up. We are so behind the timeline right now. And unfortunately, some of this Thomas Crooks stuff that I would really like to go into, I just feel, unfortunately, I don't have the time in this show. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. I've got a whole folder full of clips and things like that, but I don't necessarily want to start it and then have to stop it. It's just not good. But I'm telling you this: if Tucker Carlson can find it, why didn't Fox News find it? Why didn't CNN find it? Why didn't ABC find it? Who leaked? On this program, I've said, the leakers inside the Pentagon, they need to go to jail. The person who leaked this to Tucker, do they need to go to jail too? I think this is, this is like every culture has a dilemma where they have a hard time explaining stuff. This could be the MAGA dilemma. On one hand, we're supposed to be thankful and grateful for the DOJ, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino. And then at the same time, we see this and we're like, this is not what MAGA signed on the line for. It would be a great interview to have not Tucker. Well, that'd be a great interview too, but Cash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bongino, saying, what's going on here? And understand coming into this interview, it's going to be tough. These things, I mean, they've got video of Thomas Crooks dry firing a handgun into a target on the wall. They've got other videos out there of him conducting surveillance. I mean, if you do nothing else from the Tucker Carlson video, go talk about the surveillance that was put up in Butler on that day. How the anti-drone technology that was supposed to be in place in Butler mysteriously went down for 12 minutes. The exact time Thomas Crooks was flying his drone to get the lay of the land. You look at who had responsibility for the president's security, and I call it the Pac-Man, because it just looks like there's a whole section of the pie that Pac-Man was going to eat that Secret Service didn't have anything over. I wonder how those snipers felt if they weren't in it. If they were in it, then they're going to feel just like they feel. But those snipers who were like, oh my God, they're shooting the president. Where is it? And then we think about the toxology reports on Thomas Crooks. We will never know what was in his system. People are calling this MK Ultra and using all of these buzzwords that immediately, over the history of the last 50 years in America, we've cultured our brains to say anytime we hear certain words, we just think automatic skepticism. We downplay that source. We don't agree with it. So if I say Operation Mockingbird, people get upset. If I say Operation MK Ultra, people get upset. Those are all fake. They're not real. But there were people who were wondering what was in Thomas Crooks' body to make him do that way, and we will never know what was in that dude's body. Who authorizes the cremation of somebody who tried to murder the president of the United States? You would think that even in most criminal cases, they always do a toxology report. Why not here? In the Tucker Carlson video, the FBI will hire out a third-party platform to clean up the crime scene. Not with Thomas Crooks. They had agents out there themselves doing it, making sure that it got done the right way, the way that they wanted it done. I just have a hard time with the whole Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt on our president, and how everybody's got an excuse for why this happened, and how nobody's got an exact answer of what to do about it. Well, blah, blah, blah. It's government buffoonery, right? Yet we want to put them in charge of SNAP and EBT and making sure that all these people are taken care of. We want to downplay the role of family in America. It's not that. It's about how you feel and what matters to you. Never mind all the wisdom, arguably the centuries of wisdom built up in our family, and all of that history and knowledge is just going away. It's really tragic to see, because America was put up in a really, really good stead when we founded this country. Biblical nation. We're trying to follow. It doesn't say that we're going to follow it exactly, because we're all short. We all fall short. But we really had a great deal put in place, and we've squandered it. And it's looking pretty dark out there. I mean, what Tucker uncovered, you figure Tucker maybe got 2 or 3% of what's actually out there. What else is out there about this whole situation? We don't know. We hope that somebody comes out and actually figures out what happened there, and that we all ultimately end up getting to hear about it. something tells me we're going to be waiting a while. Don't hold your breath. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. Oh, yeah, I will not let you down. I promise that. You know, we have a First Amendment problem in the United States of America. Don't believe me. Just listen to NPR.
The number one challenge here that we see and is, of course, the First Amendment in the United States is a fairly robust protection of rights. And and that is a protection of rights both for platforms, which I actually think is very important, that platforms have those rights to be able to regulate what kind of content they want on their sites. But it also means that it is a little bit tricky to really address some of the real challenges of where does bad information come from, and sort of the influence peddlers who have made a real market economy around it.
And that is NPR's president back in 2024. Andy, that's old. It still applies today. And whenever you can use their own words and their own voice against them, you should. The mainstream media has said there's nothing to see here with Thomas Crooks. There's nothing to see here. There's everything to see there. You had women like this, and I'm not disparaging women. You had men and women like this in charge of major media corporations across the United States who were shunting this to ground. They were trying to hide it. Can't do that. You can't do that. We've got to have a reckoning, a come to Jesus moment where we basically say, look, we messed up. We were walking down this road. We thought we were going to be all right. And we ended up not making it. And where this ends up, not sure. Not sure at all. And anybody who does say they know where this is going to end up, they are absolutely full of it. Although if you are a doom scroller, if you are a naysayer and say, oh, it's all going to go to pot, well, that bet might be good. Look, it was a great show today. I appreciate all the callers. Andy, you only had one caller on the air. Yep. But I had 3 more off the air. And those are the ones that I wish I need to figure out how to cultivate that, to having them come on the air so that they can say these points. But man, when you hear it, you're just like, yes, we're going down in the right direction. We're making it happen. But it's a long road. It's not something you can just stick in the microwave and 30 seconds later, you've got it. It takes time to build relationships. It takes time to build credibility and trust. But that's what we're doing here on the Andrew Gosser Show, and we will attempt to build on that credibility in 22 hours from now. Take care, everybody. Be blessed.